Diaries of a Madman. By What Must I Do? Chapter 204, Part 1 of 3. Author's Note. We have a Discord here, the link is in the description of this video. End author's note. When we got back to the house, it was probably around 3 or 4. I could see Taya with 2 other young ponies in the backyard, standing in front of Watcher. It looked like he was demonstrating some kind of magic for them, using the crystal golem as his target. 2 mares I didn't recognize were looking over the large cherry blossom trees with Aurora, the male griffin maid. 2 guards were using shovels to throw snow off the cliffside in preparation for spring. Graceful piano notes were ringing through the air, so Spider was presumably home. "It's good to be back," I said. "Cot, give her the horn. We can have Twilight reattach it whenever she's around." Cot hurried to do so. The mare from the tower took the horn with some amount of reverence. "Silence, you're off guard duty. Thanks for the assistance." He bowed and left without a word. "Cot, head downstairs to see if there's any news. I'll be in my room." "As you wish," Cot replied with a curtsy. She walked out and headed down the stairs. I took a peek over the railing and didn't see Doppel, so I used my new wings to fly up to my door. When I checked the die glass on my desk, I saw that more than a day had passed. I pulled off enough armor to get to my stomach, removed the seed from my belly button, replaced it with another, and finally flipped the die glass again. I didn't want to let the seed out of my sight, so I dropped it in a small leather bag attached to a chain and slipped it around my neck. It's been a full day since I woke up from the coma, and I'm completely alone right now. Is he really not going to show himself? I certainly won't complain, but you'd think he'd come to greet his supposed fiancée. "Don't tempt fate," Flo said. "It's better for that thing to stay far away." "Agreed," Daria said. "I never want to see that thing in the flesh." Lounging around the house in armor wouldn't be all too comfy, so I began pulling the rest off. There weren't any stands for it, so I gently laid all the pieces out on the bed. The armor looked much more normal, broken down, since all the runes weren't glowing anymore. Cot got upstairs before I could finish removing everything and instantly began helping. "You have a guest, my lady," she said. "It's a large griffin, apparently some kind of noble. He's requesting an introduction to a Lady Ivory." "So it's that guy, huh?" "I don't know anyone by that name," I said. "Still, I can't just turn a noble away without even meeting him. Help me get dressed in something that's decent enough to casually greet him in." "As my countess commands," Cot said. This guest seemed quite surprised by Spider's performance. For now, he looks content to sit and listen. Spider's definitely pretty good. Has Flo been teaching him more? "She has," Cot replied. "Spider improved a lot while you were away. I see he was able to focus better without me here." "That isn't what I meant, my lady," Cot hastily said, pulling me close for a hug. "Oh, I see." A few long moments later, Cot let me go and slowly began dressing me again. She still looked a little dejected, so I knew I had done a good job. She perked right back up when I was fully dressed, though. "What do you think, my lady?" I hadn't really been paying attention, so I gave myself a cursory once-over in the mirror. I had on a simple white blouse and a flowing green skirt. "It'll do," I replied with a nod. "I'm going to go greet this griffin. Since I have no idea who this Lady Ivory person is, I want you to write a letter of introduction to Fleur. We can give it to him when he leaves. She knows more ponies, after all. He might read the letter, so I'll have to warn Fleur in her dreams that this Lady Ivory was actually Twilight." "As you command," Cot said. "I'll join you downstairs in a moment." The closest source of paper was my desk, so she walked over there while I went to the door. Flying downstairs while in a skirt would be bad, even for me, so I walked down properly. By the time I reached the ground floor, Doppel was waiting with a smile. "My lady, you have a guest." And when you are finished with him, the two new prospective maids are ready for their interview. The mares in the garden? I ask. The very same, Doppel replied with a nod. Two of Taya's friends are also in the backyard, learning from Watcher. Would you like me to prepare tea for you? Your guest already has a cup. No thank you. I don't know who this Lady Ivory is, so I don't think he'll be long. So you don't want my tea, then? Not right now, no. Maybe later. Is he in the sun room? Yes, my lady. I shall show you in. Apparently I was supposed to take some tea anyway, since she seemed a little sullen. I'm not really sure why, since most of the tea leaves available in Equestria were pretty terrible. She showed me in regardless, where I saw the same noble who bought me at the Griffin Festival. He was sitting at one of the tables, sipping at a cup of tea. His eyes widened and he froze when he saw me. That's not too surprising, given how unique I looked. Seeing myself in the mirror still shocked me every now and then. He got a hold of himself as I walked over, and by the time I made it to the table, he was standing up to bow. Greetings, Lady Navarone, he said. My name is Lord Darkplume. Of course the anime geek would have a dark and edgy name. Oh shit, what if he recognizes my voice? Well, I was planning on lying from the start, so let's throw the dice. It's nice to meet you, Lord Darkplume. Sure enough, his eyes fluttered when I started speaking, but he quickly blinked it away. I've been told you were hoping for an introduction. Indeed, I was hoping you could help me. If I'm honest, it's a complete shot in the dark, but this is too trivial to bother the Griffins at the embassy with, and I don't know where else to turn. Have you by chance met a mare called Lady Ivory? She was a completely pure white mare, some pony impossible to miss. It seems she was a fan of manga, something I heard was a human invention. I don't know of any ponies by that name, but I did hear rumors of her and a maid while I was in Griffis for a festival. All I heard is that the maid managed to win some famous contest, though. Then later, I think I saw a wanted poster up for her, for some reason. If I'm honest, the maid is the one I'm searching for. I was hoping to use Lady Ivory as an intermediary. I'm afraid I can't be of any assistance. However, I'm having Katrina write you a letter of introduction to Lady Fleur de Lis. She was the noble who first started the manga craze, and her social circle is a lot wider than mine. It's possible she can point you in the right way. She lives here in Canterlot, but she's in the middle of a major project, so she's been traveling all over recently. Even I've heard of Lady Fleur de Lis, the Griffin said with a small grin. I'm delighted you can assist me, my lady. If I'm honest, this is starting to make me feel guilty. Doing a little snip-snip with his memory is way too rude, but telling the truth is completely impossible. I'm so glad this is going to be Fleur's problem now. Let's find a way to get him out of my house before Fleur thinks of an excuse to show up here. If you can't find the maid you're looking for, you might need to stay in town for a while to find another, I said. It took me a few weeks to find two willing to work with another species. Moving to another country entirely is asking a lot, too. I'm afraid no other maid will be able to replace my Rosie. Do you truly think Lady Fleur will have a lead? If there's a Lady Ivory in Canterlot, Fleur can find her. And just in time, Cot was walking in with a letter. She held it up for me with a bow. I took it and quickly glanced it over, then handed it to the guy. This letter mentions the request for an introduction. And if you're interested in finding other fans of manga, Fleur can likely assist with that as well. I truly appreciate it, my lady, the giant Griffin replied with a bow. I am in your debt. You're really not. It's my fault you're in this mess. If you're interested in repaying my lady, perhaps you could support Princess Gilda, if it ever comes to it, Cot very impertinently said. Ah, I heard you were allies with the princess, Darkplume replied with a nod. Of course, my lady. I'm not sure what manner of assistance I might lend, but I'll be sure to do so. Now, I heard you've been away for quite a while. I'd hate to take up more of your time. I wish you well on your search, I said with a fake smile. Kot saw the giant fellow out while I tried to think up a way to explain the whole thing away. Did that griffin trouble you, Countess? Doppel suddenly asked from next to me. Kot had rejoined me as well, but was so quiet I hadn't noticed her. You know how Twilight and I went in disguise to the Griffin Festival. Oh, so you're the pony he's looking for? Doppel said. I sighed and fell into one of the seats. Well, telling the truth is obviously out of the question. Does he suspect you? It looked like he recognized the voice, but how would someone who knows nothing about magic have any way of tying us together? So, did you seduce him? We were at an auction where chicks are sold out as girlfriends. I was dressed as a maid. That guy bought me for a ridiculous sum because pony maids were his fetish. And then, instead of dominating me and pounding me hard, he was super shy and lame. So I had to get a little pushy, you know? It ended up backfiring and he asked me to marry him. Been there, done that, Doppel said, patting me on the shoulder. It's always awkward. So what did you say? Wildfire, which happened to be a code word that Twilight set up to teleport me to a safe location. Oof, my lady. Harsh. So is asking a girl you bought at an auction to marry you after sloppily fucking her once. Anyway, the point is that he's here and we need to deal with him. I plan on letting Fleur know that the people he's looking for are fake. Then it'll be her problem. Doesn't he deserve at least a little closure? Sure, but only if you're volunteering for the position of Rosie. If we explain it all away as Rosie being a changeling, I'm sure we can scare him off. After all, changelings aren't even allowed in his city. No bucking way, nuh-uh, Doppel said, shaking her head furiously. That'll just inflame him even more with the forbidden love angle. Trust me, been there and done that. He doesn't need the correct closure, does he? Just, you know, closure. I'm sure we can come up with a story that'll satisfy him, like saying Rosie was actually a married noble mare in disguise. That way he can be angry instead of sad. And more to the point, he won't keep looking into it to the point where he stumbles upon the truth. I'm sure you weren't at all subtle while you were there, after all. I'll try to come up with something the next time I speak to Fleur. Thank you for being such a devious slut, Doppel. It's always a pleasure to serve, my lovely lady. Speaking of which, might I ask to be called upon tonight? After all, I'd like to extend your celebration, late into the night. I'll think about it, I said with a grin. Kot placed a paw on my shoulder, which I definitely ignored. We'll probably need to be more subtle about this around the new maids. No, I've already informed them of the various ways I serve you. It's a part of being your head of household, after all. Is it really, though? Of course, I have to make sure to extract all your lust so you won't think of laying hands on the other maids, or vassals. Kot's grip on my shoulder suddenly became quite sharp, but I still ignored it. Thank you for your sacrifice. So, want to show them in? Or should I start by embarrassing Taya in front of her friends? I believe Taya already has enough issues. You hardly need to create more for her. Relax, I was mostly joking. Don't parents embarrass their kids by default? I wouldn't know, Doppel stuffily replied. I will say that one of Taya's friends wanted to meet you, but with that kind of attitude. I'm not going to purposefully embarrass my daughter, Doppel, geez. I already ruined her enough. Go bring in the new maids. I promise not to grope them. As you command, my lady. With that, Doppel walked off to the garden. Once the door was shut behind her, Kot's painful grip relaxed and she asked, should I embarrass Taya for you? No, I really was joking. It's a pure miracle that Taya actually has friends. I don't want to risk ruining it for her. My lady, what is wrong with you? Kot whispered. Why do you talk that way about your own filly? It would devastate her to hear you say that. It actually might, but that's why I'm careful not to say those things where she can hear me. I guess in that regard, maybe it's better to go one step further and just not say it at all? Man, where's the fun in that? It sounds like Cascade is doing good work, I said with a smile. Well done. My lady. Yes, Cot. There are certain kinds of evil that aren't quite as fun to watch as others. Please keep that in mind going forward. I seem to recall someone saying she would serve me with no complaints or questions. Are you starting to change your mind, Cot? I was under the impression that a mindless slave was of little value to you, my lady. And if I am to be given permission to follow you into eternity, then I'm sure one of your requirements will be some manner of mind of my own. My musings on the matter would remain private, just to make her sweat a little. That and the two new maids were coming in, followed by the slutty bug horse. Should a lady stand to greet possible new employees? I guess it's better to err on the side of politeness. With that line of thought, I started to stand, only to find Cot's paw back on my shoulder to keep me in my seat. I guess I'll be sitting, then. These are the mares I told you about, Lady Navarone, Doppel said. The mares in question, both the master race of unicorn, stopped in front of the table and curtsied. One was light pink with long golden hair. Her bright blue eyes seemed oddly dull. The other mare was dark blue with short, dark grey hair. Her dark blue eyes seemed to light up enough to match her smile. They had the same height and looked more similar than most ponies, so I figured they were related. I couldn't see either of their cutie marks, with their dresses in the way. I'm Evening Mist, the dark blue mare happily said. It's an honor to meet you, my lady. I'm Sunset Breeze, Lady Navarone, the pink mare calmly added. I am Lady Navarone, I said. I was originally a human. Now I am what is called a tree sister. Are you sure you're willing to work for someone who isn't a pony? Getting to watch history in the making is more fun than any of that, the blue mare, Evening Mist, happily replied. Doppel said you're an utterly disappointing lady in every regard, but it's all worth it if I get to work with a legendary hero. I didn't think changelings could sweat, but Doppel seemed like she might be on the verge of it. It's unwise to share anything with my sister, Sunset Breeze said with a wry smile. Unless you actually tell her it's a secret, in which case you'll never need to worry. Well, it's not like it was a secret, Cot said. I mean, we all know it. It's just one of those things we don't usually discuss. It's rude, you know. I guess the job market must be tough, if you're both willing to work for such a disappointment, I said, trying not to sound too snippy. It's expected that a lady with so few maids is a disappointment, the pink one said. If you had everything in order, you wouldn't be seeking maids. Yep, that's what we're here for, the blue one said with a nod. We'll make you super appointing. I've already told you that's not a thing, the pink one said. Sorry, my sister's job is mostly being adorable. Her brain atrophied a little from lack of use. Well, Doppel's used to ordering mindless drones around, so that shouldn't be too big of an issue. Changeling drones can't talk, Doppel sullenly replied. Can we gag her, maybe? But if you gagged me, I couldn't sing, the blue one said. I simply couldn't go through my day without that. Are you at least good at it? I ask. No doubt, the pink one said. You'll probably get tired of it anyway. But I guess if you already have a piano playing. Daria, can you filter out sounds? Just like that, I couldn't hear the piano anymore, which probably meant yes. Singing doesn't bother me, I replied with a shrug. I believe Doppel said one of you could cook and maintain a garden. That would be me, the pink one said. I know a great many recipes, and when spring comes, I can plant most of the ingredients we'll need. For the rest, I have several sources. I must say, even I've never seen anything like the cherry blossom trees you have in the backyard. I never thought I'd see one blooming in the winter. They're magical and shouldn't need any special attention, but having an experienced eye watching them would be comforting, I said. You both have experience working for nobles. We do, the blue one said. We grew up helping our parents take care of one noble's house. When we were old enough to get our cutie marks, we got hired on by another noble. But he fled Canterlot for various reasons and we found out you were hiring. That's a little suspicious. Why would he be fleeing Canterlot? Apparently one of his best friends got sentenced to Tartarus, or something like that, the blue one replied with a shrug. After that, he kept muttering about how the walls were closing in. We haven't seen him in a month, actually, but all his employees had contracts that kept his house running. I kinda wonder what'll happen to it now. I guess a purge did kinda just happen, hey? My eyes slipped over to Doppel. She didn't seem too concerned about what she just heard, so I assumed the two sisters weren't mad at me. Or at least, they didn't seem to be. Was that friend named Pertz, by chance? I ask. We find that it's much better not to know things, the pink one said. Sometimes, bad things happen to ponies who know too much. So even the servants pick up on that. Cod ask. Canterlot truly is an awful place. The nobles are afraid, the servants are afraid, and the one on top is the most terrified of all. You get used to it, the blue mare said with a smile. That's why I just do my best to be adorable and happy and bubbly. Because if you don't make your smile quota, the fun police take you away. It wasn't the fun police who took our father, the pink one said, rolling her eyes. Oh yeah? Then why did they wait to take him until after he stopped smiling, hey? He stopped smiling because he learned something he shouldn't have, day. I hardly smile anymore and they never came for me. I thought I was smiling enough for the both of us. I don't think this is how interviews are supposed to go. I'm siding with Sunset Breeze on this one, I said. Or at least, I think that was the pink one's name. He probably found out some kind of terrible truth, so one of Celestia's goon squads picked him up. I'm almost positive that not even Celestia is despotic enough to have a smile patrol. Or at least, not anymore. You said your job before was to be adorable. Does that possibly include making others adorable as well? Yep, the blue one happily replied. I could make you look like a fairy princess. That's honestly starting to get old. By chance, did you see my daughter? She's one of the unicorns out back, right? There's definitely a few things I can do with her, too. Only a few, hey? Maybe she isn't as cute as I thought. I can't exactly borrow her for a makeover right now. Oh, Doppel, would you be a dress-up doll as our Taya stand-in? I can do that, Doppel slowly said. But couldn't she just dress you up? It wouldn't be fair to ask her to dress up a completely unique species as a test, I said. This way, we can also ask Taya what she thinks, assuming she can spare us a moment. I've never failed a fashion test, the blue one said. Doppel, do you think Taya will mind if we borrow her clothes for a few minutes? I've taught her properly where to hide things, so there's nothing to worry about, Doppel said. If we're going to do this, let's do it quickly. Come along, Evening Mist. Doppel led the blue one away. For some reason, the mare was humming. I realized she was probably following the tune of the piano, but Daria was still dampening it. Would you like me to cook something? The remaining mare asked. It probably won't take my sister long to pick something out. I can definitely make something wonderful before she finishes. Before you enter the kitchen, it's important to ask. How do you feel about cooking meat? I don't have any feelings on the matter, but I don't know any recipes involving meat. Acceptable, I replied with a nod. Then, if you wouldn't mind. Cot, show her to the kitchen. And with that, I was alone in the sunroom. After a few seconds of thought, I realized how strange that was. Where is everyone? I guess most of the guards are at the bunker. Watcher's squad is outside. That leaves one squad guarding the house and I see the one standing in front of the door. So the airship crew are all missing, along with Silver Quill? Even Daria and Flo are being antisocial. And Aurora is still outside helping push snow off the cliff. We're surveying and clearing land, Flo said in my mind. If you're going to have a village built next to your old home, the land needs to be readied. If we can flatten everything before the first work crews arrive, it'll save a considerable amount of time. More so if everything is already measured and planned. All reasonable points. Please return before it gets too dark, though. If it gets cold enough to freeze, you might be in danger. You can just admit to wanting to cuddle, my favorite human, Flo smugly replied, making my head feel all warm and fuzzy. Lacking anything else to do, I began strongly considering going out to meet Taya's friends. Fortunately, I knew myself well enough to realize that probably wasn't the best idea. Besides, I finally learned my lesson and realized it would be cold without any unicorns to warm me up. So I was content with watching them. Taya apparently already knew the spell Watcher was demonstrating, so she was able to cast it at the golem with no issue. For some reason, that made the little white filly look scared. The red colt seemed impressed, but was trying to hide it. After Taya successfully assaulted the golem, the colt tried casting the spell. Some purple smoke started flying out of his horn. Watcher used magic to box all that smoke up and tossed it high into the air. So, Taya's really advanced, isn't she? I thought I understood that from the conversation I saw in the coma between the seven, but seeing it like this is different. Was getting her a combat teacher as a tutor at such a young age a good idea? There's nothing wrong with being good at your craft, Daria replied. Taya's special talent is murdering things with magic. So obviously the best thing that you, as a parent, could do is arrange a teacher who's a pro at it. And now Taya can murder like no one else. Isn't that something to be proud of? You're right, of course. It's my job to be proud of her ability to murder. Though I really wished she had gotten a cutie mark from protecting me instead of murdering Blue Blood. Part of that is my failure as a parent, so I guess I'll just have to deal with the consequences. It is, after all, what Taya wanted, Flo added. Far be it from you to call her life's work into question. Even though that might be your role, as her parent. Well, we've already established that I should be proud, so I guess there's no reason for me to step in or call her to question. But she sure knows a lot more about combat magic than her peers. Before I could continue ruminating, Celestia and Spike both suddenly appeared before me, followed by a loud popping from the air expanding. Hello once again, Navarone, the princess said. Greetings, Celestia. Are you ready to receive my seed? Spike rolled his eyes while I removed the necklace holding the small leather bag and held it up for her. Your previous donations were much more enjoyable, Celestia said, floating the bag away with magic. Speaking of which, my son has been suitably chastised. It's clear that your influence on him was stronger than I thought. Spike was in dire need of help and guidance when I got to Equestria, I said. It's not easy for other races here, especially if they're predators. We helped each other survive. I'm going to work on improving that, Celestia replied. Your new town is one of the steps I'm taking. You'll need to find an administrator to rule over it for you. I realized I have the perfect recruit. Her horn lit up and a folder appeared in front of me. What do you think? I opened it up and immediately recognized the mayor in question. It was Crabapple, the mayor who was in charge of the miners we escorted in Antarctica. After the mining operation went tits up because the metal they found was a haunted bunker, Crabapple got fired as a scapegoat. I ferried her to Canterlot and introduced her to Celestia. According to the dossier, she's spent the time since managing Celestia's state archaeologists, who presumably find evidence of older civilizations to destroy it. This town is going to have a lot more people than a mining operation, I said. Miss Krabby kept the miners in line with no problem, but there were less than 100 of them. She's very good at managing, Celestia said. The groups who are joining your colony already have existing command structures. All you need to do is put her over them, give her some decent staff, and watch the magic happen. I take it having a pony in charge, at least nominally, is basically a necessity. For the moment, I'm afraid, Celestia said with a sigh. Crabapple is a pony you have history with who also has the qualifications to make the town function. No other option I can give you will have as much experience or any history with you. Then I'll take her, if she's willing, I said, passing the folder back. She made it disappear with ease. I think I've decided on a name for the city. Babel. Babel. Spike said, his head tilting. I spelled it out for them, then said, it's a reference to the Bible, the Tower of Babel. It was where mankind banded together in an attempt to build something that could rival God himself. I'm going to make one thing clear, right now, Celestia said. The tallest spot in Equestria is the tippity top of Canterlot Castle, period. If you try to build a tower higher than mine, I'll knock it down. Fine, then I'll build my space elevator somewhere else. When the independent nation of Tartarus has death rays in the upper atmosphere that can annihilate cities in an instant, you'll have only yourself to blame. That's awesome! Spike shouted, his tail wagging. Space elevator. Celestia said. Why would anyone ever want to go to space? There's nothing up there but space. Because there's nothing up there but space, I said. Luna being able to survive and use magic on the moon means that magic works up there, in at least some capacity. There's all kinds of useful tools we could launch into the atmosphere. Luna's already showed me things like magical remote cameras, so if you could use something like that to connect to a satellite with a high-powered telescope, you could look down on anywhere on the planet in real time. And Celestia, surely you know what a radio is by now. Your device that allows instant communication to anything within range. Yes, Celestia said, suddenly frowning. You could hang those antennas in the sky, couldn't you? There's nothing up there but space, I replied with a big grin. Once you know the general range in which you can safely hang things in the sky, it just becomes a matter of getting them there. In my time, objects had to be shot in the sky with fuel that propelled it forward. You could probably do the same with magic, but getting the objects in a precise enough position that they wouldn't fall out of the sky would be difficult. An elevator that leads directly to space could be held in place using magic or runes, and would allow objects to be deposited more easily. It would also make constructing things in space much easier, so the first person to get one in the air could, say, build an artificial ring around the planet full of weapons pointed down on the planet. Building a ring around the planet would be the kind of project it would take a nation decades to build, Celestia said. A nation, sure. What about Jonathan? If he possessed the materials, it's possible he could get it done uncomfortably quickly, Celestia slowly said. I was in too much of a panic to realize it at the time, but entrusting all of the elementals working with us to Jonathan's brain powers might have been a terrible decision, I said. His orders are to not tell me what any of his orders are, minus the one he's currently obeying. He also refused to confirm or deny having any human minds stored inside of him. I think he's a Trojan horse. What now? Celestia asked. Sorry, I guess you guys wouldn't get that reference. I think Jonathan was put in the bunker to ensure, one way or another, that humanity lives on. If I don't start making attempts to build a place for humans when they arrive, he might try to replace my mind with another human's. Or he might go after the mages who sent me back in time in the first place. His magical knowledge is limited, but if Jonathan got loose in the tower and started infecting mages, he would learn at least enough to be a threat to Taya. I've already prepared for that, in at least some regards, Celestia said. We've found a spell that identifies foreign agents in the body. It enables us to tell if anyone becomes a host to an elemental. All guards are checked before leaving the fort. But there are pieces of Jonathan on the ship, and it's slowly coming closer. Well, hopefully he won't betray us, I said with a shrug. So if I can't build my tower, how about the name Eden? I'll name my first city in Tartarus Babel instead. That's another biblical reference, Celestia said. You sure like picking the places humanity got chased out of, don't you? I'm naming my legal whorehouse Sodom. My legal casino might be Gomorrah. Because what's paradise without a garden of earthly delight, hey? Spike, if anyone in the town asks, just tell them you're an overgrown kobold with a weird coloration. You'll fit right in and no word will get back to Celestia about you visiting whatever establishment you might like. Prostitution isn't illegal, but that can change very quickly, Celestia said. If I hear any rumors about oversized kobolds visiting any seedy establishments, I'll ban prostitution and forcefully change the name of your town to Pony. Wait, just Pony? I ask. And you won't get any tax breaks for it, either. Fine, then I won't make him pretend to be a kobold. Anyway, is Eden fine as a name? Yes, but I really would prefer something that isn't a biblical reference. Names have meaning, and naming yourself after a place humanity was chased out of might doom you. But that is your choice, in the end. I'll have this seed planted tomorrow, on the first day of spring. I'll entrust the matter to a servant on another continent, so I won't know where it's actually planted. I'll see to it that you'll be provided with clothing, a weapon, and a retainer as soon as you awaken, should it come to it. Thank you. I'm preparing another one now, but I might give it to Luna's friend. The one who suicide bombed my capital. Celestia quietly asked. Yep, Poira. She has valuable intel, so I'm doing her a favor. Plus, until she's gone, I can't fix the forest. I need to have her dealt with before we can break ground on anything. I think I might like a word with her before she's freed. Then you can ask your ex-sister where she is. But if you'd like to wait until after, I'd be happy to bring her to Canterlot, assuming she's willing to go. Humph. Even if you are being a meanie, I'll still give you a warning. Don't make more than 2 seeds consecutively. Even 2 may be pushing it. Why? It takes energy to fill those seeds with your essence. You won't feel the loss after making 1 seed, but trying to make 2 might wear you out. Especially in the winter. It's already in me now, so I'll take this opportunity to see how it affects me. Taya didn't mention anything about that. Spike, did you notice her acting more tired than usual while I was asleep? Nope. She didn't mention making seeds, but I know one of those in the backyard is hers. Wouldn't it be better to space them out some? Normally I would, yet. I just wanted to deal with the Everfree quickly. From here on out, I'll usually wait at least a week before making them. Barring exceptional circumstances, of course. Are you done with Spike for the day? Indeed, Celestia replied with a nod. I tried to get him to stay for dinner, but he wanted to make sure you properly celebrated your promotion. I knew you'd only tell Doppel if she twisted your arm, Spike said with a shrug. So I wanted to make sure everyone here found out. She already twisted my arm. You could have just stayed for dinner. But then I wouldn't get to celebrate with you, he said. And I'll be eating dinner all alone, Celestia moaned, hanging her head. You could invite your secretary, I said. That chick seems on top of things. The day after you turned into a changeling and pretended to be me, she asked if I had been feeling unwell the day before. She certainly doesn't let much get past her. Did she notice Flo's work? Probably, but she's smart enough not to say anything. After all, it's above her pay grade. And so is eating dinner with a princess, so she would absolutely refuse. You know, I do see several empty seats here. Surely no food a lowly lady such as myself could offer would be fit to give to the princess herself, I said, doing my hardest not to smirk. Luna raved about your grilled cheese sandwiches for days, before demanding the chefs learn how to make them. If such a lowly meal could so easily appease a princess, I don't see why you would struggle. Besides, my son is here to help you celebrate. I'd happily eat anything he makes for his dear mother. Well, he already knows more about your tastes than he'd like. You're just determined to be difficult about this, aren't you? Would you believe that eating lunch with you and Spike was the highlight of my month? Wait, you've only... Is being her really that bad? It's very lonely, Celestia said, lowering her eyes. And even my most trusted vassal is coming up with excuses to turn me away. You know how weird everyone else is gonna feel with Celestia eating with us. Well, that's an excuse I can bust straight through with brute force, Celestia said, finally looking up at me with a smug grin. Her horn lit up way too bright, and a moment later, she morphed into a changeling queen. And then seconds later, she morphed into a mare I had never seen before, a white unicorn with blonde hair. Her cutie mark was a frying pan. If you don't have a cook good enough to satisfy a princess, I can fix that one too. I'll have you know I received top marks in my cooking tests for the courses I took to become the perfect wife. So you just turned into a changeling queen. Are you sure you can turn back? Of course, I already tested it before now. Where do you think the drone I use as a replacement sometimes came from? She's incredibly determined. Flo, what are the chances of making her? Where is she going? Cooking without a sense of smell might be difficult, but I promise I'll make something that moves you to tears. Celestia said as she trotted to the door leading further into the house. Hold up, I said. She didn't stop, of course. By that point, there was no time to explain. If she wanted to be difficult about it, I'd let her find out for herself. That said, Daria, tell Kot that the mare coming into the kitchen is allowed to be here. I don't want blood everywhere. Done, Daria replied. Just in time, too. Though it seems that now Celestia knows she has competition, she's even more fired up. Joke's on her. I was planning on feeding the maid's dish to a pony. Asking her to cook an ideal meal for a human on her first try also seems unfair. Kot also wants to know who this mare is, though she suspects it's probably someone in disguise. Tell her the truth, but tell her not to let anyone else know she knows. So, should I go drag her back? Spike finally asked. No, let her be. Hopefully this won't become a thing. I'm pretty sure it's already too late for that. Does she really bother you that much, Nav? Honestly, no. But if I don't push back, she'll overwhelm me. I've already seen more of her than I have of my own filly since I woke up. I mean, marrying her wouldn't be the worst thing, would it? That whole space elevator thing seemed cool, so I'm sure you can talk her into it. Whatever she said about the tallest tower was just some weird alicorn pride. Flo left a lot of that around, for some reason. Yeah, but she's kinda old, dude. 6,000 years is a whole lot of years. I realized in the coma what that kind of time can do to someone. Celestia does need something more to tether her to reality, but I don't know if I could take on the job of being her spouse. At the very least, if I do plan on marrying her, I need to make a whole lot of preparations so she doesn't end up completely owning me. Well, you broke it off with Princess Gilda, didn't you? He said. That leaves Queen Chrysalis as the only other royal with eyes on you, right? Do you really want to marry her? I might not mind being overwhelmed by her. It would probably be more fun than Celestia, at least. At the moment, no. However, that is subject to change. I guess that does currently leave Celestia as my only option to ascend to royalty, then. Well, unless I claim a nation of my own. If Luna and Reginald can figure it out, I'm sure you and I can manage, Spike said. Twilight can be our Celestia fill-in, I guess. Claiming Tartarus will be a side project, I said. If it's possible to obtain it, I'd like to. But that really depends on the conditions there. I intend to summon a few residents to ask questions. That'll still leave me without a ring on my finger, though. Who knows what'll happen in the future? Spike said with a shrug. I guess finding out will be fun. For tonight, when do you want to begin the celebration? Never. Before dark, because I'll need to go to sleep shortly after. The away team from the bunker should be returning soon, I'm sure. Well, the kitchen's big enough for two. I guess I'll go help Celestia prepare. There's actually two in there right now. I'm thinking of hiring more staff, a cook/gardener and a general lady's maid. But the maid's just in there to make a test meal, which I'll need to find a pony to eat for me. Then I'll just start prepping. There's still plenty of space for that. Soon, my meat will be filling you full to bursting again. Good. That mare currently isn't Celestia, so feel free to say whatever you want around her. That's right, she isn't. I'll definitely remember that. Look forward to dinner, Nav. With that, he walked off to the kitchen. Flo, let Taya know that I'm here. Also tell her that the maids are undergoing tests. We might need her as a judge. She wouldn't feel comfortable coming inside while leaving her guests outside, and she isn't sure it's wise to bring them in. Am I really that unnerving? Or is she worried that Kot will scare them? There's a giant spider playing the piano in another room, Flo said. An ex-Princess Luna will be arriving soon, along with more of your guards and a zebra. If Luna gets back while the kids are still inside, just ask her to go take a shower or something. And if we keep them in this room, they won't run into Spider. But if Taya really doesn't want them to meet me, I understand. She mostly just doesn't want to embarrass you, Flo said. But she refuses to say it. I don't mind if she embarrasses me, as long as it's an accident. Besides, when her friends leave, is she really going to make them walk around the house instead of letting them go through it? She can introduce her pet to them, too. Taya is surrendering, Flo said. But she's making Watcher act as their chaperone. That's probably for the best. It looked like the kids were in the middle of a lesson, so they'd probably come in when it was over. While I was watching them, my griffin maid placed a cup of tea on the table next to me. Here you are, my lady, he warmly said. Thank you. Even if I don't remember ordering tea. How does the kitchen look? Busy. There's even a mare in there I don't recognize. She's the one who made the tea. How thoughtful of her, I said as I sipped it. Sure enough, it tasted like the tea Celestia usually had. I believe Taya and her friends might come inside soon. Would it be good to offer them snacks, or is that beneath my station? Personally, I'd err on the side of politeness, he replied with a shrug. These are Taya's friends, so it seems like a good idea to cater to them. Ask Spike if he can make some of his dragon fire cookies. Those only take a few minutes and they pair decently with tea. We should even have everything we need. As you wish, my lady. He walked back off to the kitchen. Truly, it amazed me how well he resembled a female griffin. A part of me was worried when I found him wearing the maid outfit, but if he passed well enough to even fool Princess Gilda, then I'd say he was the perfect trap. In a pleasant turn of events, Spike came in with the cookies right as the lesson was wrapping up outside. So you're actually going to be nice to her friends? Spike asked. Don't seem so surprised about it, please. How's cooking with Mom? It's not cooking with Mom, it's cooking with a mare I just met today. And it's been pretty fun. The maid you're testing should be ready soon, but the mare we just met is going to need a little longer. She can take her time. Do you want to greet the kids, or are you going to abandon me to fend for myself? I need to keep cooking, so I'll send Kot back in, he said. There's no need for her to keep an eye on the maid with both me and Celestia watching. Perfect. I'm not really sure Kot's the best replacement, but sure. Thanks for the cookies, Spike. Kot will probably be bringing more tea with her, he replied as he left. Have fun, Navi. A few moments later, Kot walked in carrying a tray with tea, some cups, and sugar. Roxy, Taya's pet cockatrice, was draped across her shoulders. "That mystery mare is surprisingly good in a kitchen, my lady," she said as she walked to my side and set the tea next to the cookies. "Better than Sunset Breeze, though I understand the mystery mare isn't for hire. Her contract would come with more trouble than it's worth and she'd probably only cook for me. Taya's friends are coming in. Can you help me pretend to be normal?" End of part 1.